The movie opens in the 9th century with a group of foolhardy Vikings setting out to test their fortitude. Only Åsa, the daughter of the king, insists her father should stop while they have time because she believes his greed will result in their downfall. But the Viking King doesn't budge, and a ram, to be used as bait, is brought and tied at a distance. And as he waits with his army near a lake, something appears from the water and attacks them. The scene then cuts to the present, and we are introduced to Sigurd, an archaeologist studying the ancient Norse people known as the Vikings. He is overworked, which doesn't allow him to spend much time with his two children, Ragnhild and Brage. At work, he has an important meeting regarding the funding of his project, which centers around the aspects of the Oseberg ship kept in the Museum of Oslo. He starts with a brief introduction and then explains that the Vikings traveled further than history has so far led everyone to believe. But the investors are not happy because of the lack of evidence to prove his theory, so he takes them to show the artifacts they discovered, among which is a snake head with patterns. But upon closer inspection, those patterns are found to be runes that spell out Ragnarok. The meeting ends badly for Sigurd, as the investors find his theories unsupported and foolish, and they have decided to withdraw the funding for his ambitious project. However, it is not enough to put out his enthusiasm. After all, it is not just his work, but his late wife's work too, whose notebook filled with drawings and rune symbols he carries everywhere. That evening, a breakthrough takes place when Alan, a co-worker on his project, stops by his house and brings in a stone tablet he found in Finnmark, an area in northern Norway they have been focusing on. In the middle of the tablet, they find a symbol similar to a remnant they discovered, so they go to the museum to retrieve the artifact and bring it back to find it fits perfectly on the symbol. He then deciphers the runes, which narrates the 3-day expedition of the Oseberg ship to the deep water lake known as the Eye of Odin, and shows a map that they consider could lead them to Viking treasure. Sigurd decides to make the best of his new finding and persuades his kids to accompany him to Finnmark, which will serve as their summer vacation and he can pursue his work too. Ragnhild agrees only if he promises to buy her a new computer, and she gets a deal for herself. Soon they fly to Finnmark, where they are received by Alan's research assistant Elizabeth and a shady-looking guide, Leif. They begin their overland trek to the coordinates of the mysterious lake. While hiking, they come across a fence that used to be the old border between Norway and the Soviet Union, with a warning prohibiting entrance. But that is not enough to stop them, of course. This is the ultimate vacation for his kids, after all, so they make their way through it after cutting an opening in the fence. Life brings them to the only lake for miles around, which surrounds the small island they identified as the Eye of Odin. They continue to the island by crossing the water, using a makeshift raft and oars made of logs and branches tied together. Once they reach the island, they use their detectors to locate metal remnants and ends up finding many shell casings. As the adults are figuring out the place, the children decide to explore the place further, and soon enough, Ragnhild finds a Russian barrack, while Brage finds a cave. He calls his dad, who, upon inspection, realizes the cave is much deeper than they anticipated. The team descends down the deep cave using ropes and explores its depth when Alan stumbles upon a Viking helmet. Sigurd and Alan stand speechless as they finally find a piece of evidence to corroborate their theory, indicating they were right all along. Vikings had made their way to Finnmark. While looking for more such evidence, Brage finds an ovoid object in the shallow puddle, and he stashes it in his rucksack. The group is excited to have found many other objects like weapons and pieces of armor, and Sigurd wonders how they are going to transport it all to the museum in Oslo. But Leif turns out to be an opportunist and takes matters into his own hands when he finds that the group intends to give the artifacts to the museum rather than sell them for profit. At gunpoint, he gets them to pack all their findings and leaves after loosening the ropes, abandoning the team in the cave. Leif escapes on the makeshift raft, but not long after he starts paddling, he gets pulled into the water by an unknown entity. Meanwhile, in the cave, the team finds a skeleton, probably of a Viking, which scares Ragnhild, and she pleads with her dad to take her home. Elizabeth decides to climb the steep side of the cave and reestablishes the rope so others can climb out. Left with no choice as life has taken the tents, they spend the night on the island. While Elizabeth, Ragnhild, and Brage rest inside the bunker, Sigurd and Alan head back into the cave after they find a massive fang lodged into the skull they retrieved from the cave. Things get weirder in the bunker when the ovoid pops out of Brage's rucksack and starts hatching as the trio sleeps. The children wake up to hissing sounds and things tumbling off the counter when Brage sees his bag empty and realizes the ovoid is an egg that has hatched. Suddenly, they see a small face appear from the shadows, and Brage offers the baby snake a fry, thinking it's hungry. But when it screeches, the kids scream, and Elizabeth traps it inside a tin container to prevent it from escaping. On the other hand, Sigurd and Alan arrive at the cave to discover a mass grave. And after referring to the notes, Sigurd shares his fears with Alan about the headposts on the Viking ship being a representation of a real creature that may have lived there 1,000 years ago. Just then, something shiny from below the puddle catches Alan's eyes, and they pull out a decomposed skeleton of a Russian soldier, still wearing a uniform, who died the same way as the Vikings. They stand dumbfounded because their understanding of the creature's existence is flawed, and their worst fears are about to come true as they see the first glimpse of a horrific serpentine creature. They rush out of the cave, sensing danger to the kids and Elizabeth. Back at the bunker, the baby murder spaghetti rattles and squeals inside the box that shakes the cable, which runs down to the lake and alerts the adult serpent. The creature pulls on the cable, dragging the entire bunker toward the lake, so Elizabeth quickly pushes the kids out of the bunker, but before any one of them can get out, the door suddenly closes and gets jammed, trapping them inside. They scream as they get pulled further, but the bunker gets stuck on 2 small trees, giving Sigurd and Alan, who just arrived, some time to open the door and rescue them. Brage is last to be rescued, and in the process of pulling him out of the bunker, Sigurd also pulls out the bag that has the box with the baby danger noodle inside. The team runs deep into the woods before stopping to catch some breath, everybody visibly shaken by what just happened. They decide they need to leave and start collecting things to build something that would help them cross the lake. While collecting things, Alan finds the metal box with the baby serpent and decides to keep it for himself, with the intention of taking it back alive. After finding a sturdy hook and a gun in the tanks, they tie the hook to the rope, and Elizabeth shoots a zip line across the water to the mainland. Alan goes first, followed by the children, but when it is Sigurd's turn, his rope gets stuck midway, and Elizabeth has to pull herself on the rope to help him out. Sigurd gets in trouble when his hook comes loose, and he hangs there with the mere support of another hook that is also coming loose. But Elizabeth arrives on time and secures it seconds before Sigurd is about to fall into the lake. Their woes are not over yet as the serpent swims towards them and, for the first time, reveals itself fully as it comes out of the water to attack them. It bites off the rope, making Elizabeth and Sigurd fall into the water. They barely make it out of the water after Alan shoots the creature in the eye, thwarting its attack. The creature will not let go of them that easily and follows them on land. The group runs inside another underground bunker and closes the door just as the serpent attacks the door, trying to break it open. They split up to find a way out as the bunker is spread over a large area, but none of them can find a way out. Helplessly, they all sit inside, and Ragnhild starts looking through her mother's notebook. She asks Sigurd to translate the symbols in the notebook. Sigurd tells her that the symbols are runes that narrate a story about a Viking king who had brought his army to capture a creature, but this was the only part of the runes he couldn't decipher. The king's daughter, Åsa, could have been the only survivor after her father and his men succumbed to their selfish desires. Now Sigurd understands that the runestone was a warning from Åsa for generations to leave the creature alone. An idea pops in Sigurd's mind when he notices the vent pipes and suggests they follow the pipes, which will show them the way out. And soon enough, they find a way out through the ceiling door. They use shelves to make a ladder, and Sigurd carries Alan on his shoulder for him to reach the door, and he successfully opens it and climbs out. Just then, everybody hears the squealing from Alan's bag, and Sigurd opens it to find the baby death shoelace. Alan asks for his bag and even gets defensive when Sigurd doesn't comply because Sigurd thinks it is wrong. But when Alan presses him to pass him the bag, Sigurd is about to give him the bag when the serpent pulls Alan, devouring him. It then tries to make its way in, crashing down on the bunker tunnel and knocking out Elizabeth and Sigurd. While the children who were standing a little farther ran away to safety, a dust cloud bursts behind them, accompanied by a blood-curdling screech. The children hide in the lockers, and Ragnhild covers Brage's mouth to stop him from making any sound as the serpent passes through the tunnel. Once they find the creature is gone, they step out of the locker and start looking for their dad, not realizing the creature is right behind them. They scream when they spot it behind them and run, calling for their dad, but eventually they get cornered by it. An unconscious Sigurd starts gaining consciousness when he hears his children screaming and decides to return the baby serpent, thinking that would calm down the creature. As the creature is about to attack the kids, Sigurd starts walking towards them with a baby nope rope squealing, which distracts the serpent and follows its voice. The serpent soon appears in front of Sigurd, and now, face to face with the creature, Sigurd returns the baby serpent, and the creature leaves without harming anyone. Sigurd rushes to his kids and embraces them, apologizing for risking their lives. They then make their way to where Elizabeth lies unconscious, and after helping her up, the four make their way out, taking the secret with them and adhering to Åsa's warning to leave the creature and its offspring alone. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thank you for watching.